Today, we'll be taking a deep dive into the Mexico versus South Africa match. So, why did the game unfold in the way that it did? So, I want to start with the overlapping structure from the get-go because that was really evident throughout, and just 4 minutes in, Reyes was making these runs. So, he started in this position just here, but he's going to make that overlapping run all the way down the wing, past the right winger, in order to get across in the box for Jimenez, who we'll get onto this later on, but he was really deep throughout the match. And actually, I don't want to compare him to Harry Kane because it's not the same thing. Every player is different in their own right, but in terms of dropping deep and actually getting in the box late, he did that really, really well. And I think people often complain about Harry Kane dropping deep and sort of congesting that midfield, but Mexico did it really well in a way where Jimenez dropped deep, and because the wingers were so narrow, they almost formed that strike partnership, and then Jimenez was allowed to get in the box late, but we'll get onto that. So Reyes bombing down the wing here. It happened on the left side as well, but Reyes did it loads. So as we progress this image along, the ball's obviously come in, Reyes is making that run, and as you can see, we've taken this along one more, and he is now the player ahead. So he's come from there all the way down the wing in order to play that cross across the face of goal into the box. And again, look how deep Jimenez is here. He's got that massive run to make, but he does get there because he gets a shot off. And I think that's where in the end, South Africa actually played a 5-back, but they kept getting caught out because Jimenez kept dropping and then just suddenly arriving out of nowhere. And he was almost unmarked for his goal, which obviously we'll get onto in a moment. But Reyes bypassed the South African defence so many times just through that simple overlapping run, playing that cross in, and of course, as we mentioned, ahead of kickoff, that was the aim. What we'll get onto next is the first goal and sort of why that high risk, high reward style of football didn't work for South Africa on the night. It was a really poor error. There was nowhere really for him to get it wrong. Yes, Mexico were really intense. Yes, the press was excellent, which we'll talk about again, but really, at a World Cup, I get some of these players don't play in higher divisions, but that's an error as a professional footballer you just can't be making without expecting to get punished, and of course he did. So I've seen a lot of blame placed on the goalkeeper here for playing the pass and not playing it out wide, but the style of play they play, where they invite the press, this was the perfect pass, because then what's going to happen is it can be played either out to the right or out to the left, either two of these options. And then I think it doesn't really matter, because then what happens once you've played those passes, let's say for example he gets the ball, okay, so the ball's come out this way and then we can go left and play, and then there's loads and loads of space for South Africa to go and then build. So actually the idea in principle isn't wrong at all. It was just that touch was absolutely appalling, and because we had Mexico who were tucking in, getting nice and tight, goalkeepers being closed down, had to play that pass, and then just again a really, really poor first touch that Mexico were able to capitalise on. And this is another angle of the goal and how it was conceded. So again, really simple first touch. Yes, he's being closed down here, but again, professional footballers, always scanning. You can see he's coming this way. Perhaps we can take a touch and dummy it this way. You know, drop of the shoulder, turn the other way. It's easy to say in hindsight and being a spectator, and yes, it's South Africa. This isn't the highest standard of game that we will see, but you check your shoulder, drop your shoulder and turn out the other way. There's a simple pass out there to the left, which many people think the goalkeeper should have just played it out that way initially, which I don't disagree with, but also there has to be blame placed on the player that made the poor touch. And again, once that happened, you can see that Mexico really ready to attack. He comes in here, in, and then really there's no chance. Again, 9 minutes in, you just want to get the basics right, and first touch for a 10-yard pass is the basics. So another example here of just how narrow Mexico were playing. This is Quinones here, the left winger, and just look how central he is. That's him there, and again that has allowed the left back to push up and play, then with loads of space ahead of him in case it does go wide. Right winger had all this space out here, but he's tucked inside, And again, look, the South African defence don't know where to turn to. They've got this three here. Both of their fullbacks are in no man's land. They've been caught out here and here. So now they have a choice to make. They can either stay narrow and stay with the attackers, knowing that at some point it's going to spread, which it did, or they make the choice early and then leave that massive gap between centre halves for Jimenez to exploit. So it's really tough. And as I say, as I'll keep going back to, Mexico executed their game plan absolutely perfectly. We spoke earlier about central combinations being the aim for Mexico, and I'm sort of going to explain how this led to the first red card. So if we just have a look at how fluid the rotations are for Mexico. So we've got Reyes on the ball here, about to play a dinked ball. And what's going to happen, what you'll see in the next frame, is Jimenez drop, and Gutierrez, who is just here, is going to rotate with Jimenez. So as Jimenez drops, Gutierrez is going to make the run this way. So this is the image progressed. The ball's now been played into Jimenez, who was here, and he dropped to receive the ball. And this is Gutierrez, who is about to make that run this way. I mean, look at how disjointed that South Africa defence is. Someone stepped to Jimenez in order to prevent him getting the ball, not got there, and now there's just so much space to exploit. So my point is that Sitol's really not been given a choice. It's either get sent off or go 2-0 down, which people are going to agree or disagree with his choice, but that's the matter of what happened. He got sent off. So Gutierrez progresses on. He's made this fantastic run all the way from pretty much halfway. It's been lofted over the top. He's followed it. Sitol's chased as well, and ultimately, as we all saw, got sent off. But that's just an example of how those central combinations and that fluid rotation can lead to such a clear-cut opportunity, especially against, for want of a better phrase, lesser opposition, where they are going to get exploited and these rotations are going to confuse them and sort of disjoin that back line. Okay, so this is the moment of the second goal. So we're going to take you through the two phases of play, and then we're going to go back to the first one. So 3 phases. This is technically the second one. So again, this is Quinones on the ball again. Just look how central he is. This is him here. He's a left winger. He could be all the way out here. He's tucked in again. We've got Jimenez once more behind play, and then of course when one winger's coming inside, one gets wider, so we've got loads and loads of space down the right flank as well if needed. But again, just the focus on central play and overload in the middle of the park really was impressive from Mexico. And this really is just a superb run from Jimenez, because once again he started all the way back here, ended here, and you know what happens next. Back post, he's going to be free. Superb cross on a plate for him, but who's picking up? Look, the South African defender isn't goal side. He's never going to get there. It's not an easy header by any means, but in terms of how you'd want that chance, back post, free header, pretty nice for a striker like Raul Jimenez. So there's one final still which I want to focus on before we wrap up, because this just shows the intensity of that Mexican side. It was actually Raul Jimenez who won the ball back. So as you can see here, he's regained possession in midfield, essentially. And then he makes this run all the way down here, which is just incredible. Especially, let's not forget, this is a 35-year-old striker. He's won the ball back, laid it off to Quinones, who's driven forwards, followed that run up. And again, that's the benefit of these central combinations, because you are overloaded in midfield. So what happens when you lose possession is you can regain it really quickly by swarming. And I think that's one thing people need to be careful about with Mexico, because I do think they'll progress through the group and they're going to get to potentially the round of 16 in my opinion. And when they start facing top opposition, where potentially there could be some complacency with it's only Mexico, but they are so intense. They've got that home crowd, 80,000 fans there yesterday, geeing them on. And that intense play and that intense atmosphere, I think, could cause a shock during this tournament. In terms of the red cards, I mean, we've looked at one. The slap was interesting to say the least. Same can be said for Mexico. Cesar Montez's foul wasn't worthy of a red card, in my opinion. Both felt really harsh, but ultimately, tactically, Mexico's game plan was spot on. They created good chances and they were clinical enough when it mattered to get the party started in Mexico City.